Well, here we are, Boneheads. I am a happy girl, Chasta Baby Huey, with somebody I consider to be one of the most brilliant minds that I've ever known on the face of the planet. Musician, composer, Mr. Danny Elfman, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored. Thank you.
Wow. There's a lot we want to get into here. And I just have to say, this is the first time we've ever done it this way, where we had you on for a couple of minutes on the morning show. And then we were like, can we please dive a little deeper with you? And you said yes. So it's really fun because you've got such an incredible career. But just on a personal level, I just have to say thank you. Like you, from the time I was a little one, whenever I fell in love with Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands, and the list goes on and on. Nightmare Before Christmas. I even had Ice Dance play at my wedding. Like there's a whole
Oh,
there's a whole
thank
list
you.
of I'm gonna get teary eyed. There's a whole list
You're
of
gonna make me
things.
teary eyed.
I mean, even going back, I remember way back in the day, I saw you in an interview and you were talking about Duke Ellington, and I was young and I had never really heard. And so you even inspired my love of 1930s jazz, which I still listen to constantly today.
And
So
I
there's
still do too.
yeah.
Thank you.
So there's so much of my personality and my love of entertainment that is because of you. So thank you for that. We'll start there.
Okay.
Yeah, before I cry. So here we are. I mean, we've got a lot to talk about. Baby Huey and I have been going back and forth about Oingo Boingo and all of your film scores and all of the things. So it's hard to find a place to start. But I do have to say, when you look at, there are certain people in the world, famous or not, that you see them and you go, that person's doing exactly what they're meant to do. And I feel like that, without a doubt, is you. You were placed on this earth to do what you're doing. Do you feel that way? And do you believe in destiny in that way?
It's funny because yes and no. I'm always of two minds of everything. I tend to be very rationally minded, like my father was like that. On the other hand, the other part of me does believe in destiny. And part of me is complete. If you can't prove it in science, it doesn't exist. But then I'll do a horoscope. So
Yeah. Balance.
yeah, exactly. It's what it is. It's the big argument, the big mess
Yeah.
that goes on in there all the time. So yes, I do feel that everything happened for some weird reason that I can't explain, because I grew up not having any interest in being in music. I never had a music lesson. And then when I got to high school, my friends were into music and I wasn't. I didn't play anything. And I was like, well, my ship has sailed. It's too late for me. Most musicians I'd met, they'd been playing since they were 6 or 7. And here I was 17 and I'd never picked up an instrument. And it was like, okay, so that's not going to happen. And then suddenly I pick up a violin. Suddenly I'm in Paris with my brother and hired by a French musical theatrical troupe when I'm 18, La Grand Magic Circus. Suddenly I'm performing. It's like, what is going on? and then I'm a street musician and a fire breather and a trombone player. And it's like all of this stuff. And it's like, could you imagine what my parents thought?
Oh, yeah.
2 school teachers and their son is playing as a busker, passing the hat, playing trombone and fire breathing and violin on the street. And they're like, so you've had your year off. You're going back to college, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mom, really soon, maybe next year. Then after 3-4 years, they're like, you're never going back, are you? I'm so sorry.
I love that about you. I feel like your whole life has just been like, say yes first and then figure it out later.
Oh, you nailed it.
Right? And I love that about you. That's why it's so inspiring to somebody like me. I'm like, okay, we'll figure it out. Sure.
Because I met Tim Burton in 1985 on Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I thought he'd want a song because now I'm in Oingo Boingo. I'm in the band. So I said, oh, they probably want an Oingo Boingo song. And he goes, no, I want you to do the score. And I said, yes. And then I'm sitting there like the next week. I didn't think I'd get hired. I went and wrote a piece of music on a 4-track tape player and sent him a cassette. And then I get a call a week later saying, you got the job. And I told my manager, tell him I can't do it. And he said, why? Because I don't know how to score a film.
I don't know what I'm doing.
And then, fortunately, his answer to me was, I've been working all week on this. You don't want to do it, you call him and tell him you don't want to do it. And I looked at the telephone, and then there's that little voice that just says, you know what's lucky for me? is that I grew up in the punk era.
Mhm.
And even though I wasn't in a punk band, that attitude was with me. And it was F it about everything. It's
Yes.
like, do I know what I'm doing? No. Should I do it? No. F it.
What a mantra to live by.
And that was it. And then
That's
suddenly I'm doing scores and et cetera, et cetera. But what you just said is so true. It was about 8 years ago. I'm sitting in Berlin with the concertmaster of the Berlin Philharmonic. You know, I was hoping to get a commission. And he goes, oh, we got a new conductor. We can't do an orchestra commission this year. But he goes, I am with the Berlin Philharmonic Piano Quartet. And we would love to commission you to do a piano quartet. And I go, you got it. I'm in. And we're having coffee and we're talking for about another 20 minutes. And then I go, okay, I have to ask you this. What's a piano quartet?
I love it.
And I said, I already agreed, but I think I better find out what it is. I said, I hope it doesn't mean 4 pianos.
Yeah.
And he goes, no. It's a piano, violin, viola, cello. Okay, I'm good.
I got it. Wow.
Oh my God, that's incredible. Danny, listen, I mean, we have so much we want to get into and your whole writing process, everything. But do want to mention, so this week it was announced, your last 2 shows for 2024. So
Yes.
your concert's called From Boingo to Batman to Big Mess and Beyond. So we got 2 shows in November right after Halloween. So
Day of the Dead, we mentioned it on the air. I'm so excited to spend Day of the Dead with you.
Perfect.
Perfect.
So the first one being November 2nd, Hollywood Bowl, and then the next day, November 3rd, in Shoreline, here in the Bay Area. And tickets go on sale this Friday, 10 a.m. through Ticketmaster. More info over at livenation.com. So, Danny, just curious, just for the fans who seen the announcement, I unfortunately have never had this chance to see you live yet, which I'm super excited. Chasta saw you.
It's so great.
She saw you back in 2022. So just for us who haven't had a chance to see you yet, what can we expect? I mean, we've seen clips of you at Coachella from a couple years ago. What's kind of the playlist, the set list, and what's the experience going to be like?
You know, it started with Coachella.
Yeah.
Because my manager, Laura, had been trying to get me down to Coachella for 15 years, you know, and it's like, finally, it's like, come on, just come down and check it out. And I looked and I saw those big screens and I said, wow, the technology has really changed in the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And that got me excited. So I pitched an idea to Paul, the promoter for Coachella, the show. I said, what if I mix everything up? A little bit of film music, a little old music and new music, and put crazy visuals and just put it through a mix master and just do it. And he says, okay. And then, of course, I'm finding myself a year later going, oh my God, this makes no sense. But then, of course, COVID happened and everything canceled. And so we were just starting our rehearsals. I had this band together that I really, really loved with, these just wonderful players. And it all goes into hibernation. And then suddenly, there it was again. And it's like, oh my God, I have to actually do this thing that makes no sense. And literally, I was there at Coachella pacing around backstage before the show going, what am I doing? You can't mix Only a Lad with Jack's Lament.
Yes, you can.
With Batman, with The Simpsons, and have it make any sense.
Yeah.
And, but I went out there kind of expecting a firing squad, and it didn't, nobody killed me.
And people were unbelievably excited. I mean, did you expect that kind of tsuami of love come at you?
I had no idea, because literally the people in the front that I can see were just kind of looking up going, like, what the F is this?
Right.
Which
what is
was
happening?
The whole idea.
Right.
And what's happening?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got off stage and Laura is like on her phone. She goes, oh my God, look at all this, all this stuff that's coming in social media. And it was like, they liked it. I guess they liked it. And then the next weekend, the audience had doubled. And I said, okay, this doesn't make any sense, but here we are. And then brought it to the Hollywood Bowl and expanded. That was a 1-hour show to a 2-hour show. Yeah. And this year, it's a similar show. It's mixing all of these elements up. There's a 60-piece orchestra. There's a choir. There's a kick-ass rock band that I just love to death. And it's all like like I said, it's insane, makes
Yeah.
no logical sense, but there it is. And then I'll be taking it the next step and adding in some songs from my next album that nobody's heard and a few new things. So yeah.
It's funny that you say it makes no sense because to lovers of you like myself, like to me it's your brand. Like it's the whimsy of it all. And it's figuring out how to make it work.
Going in front of a rock audience.
Yeah.
And playing Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah.
It's like I mean, I went through it again because we played Sick New World earlier this year.
Yeah.
That's right.
And there I'm in between I'm like Slipknot and System of a Down. And I'm going, what am I doing here? This is insane. And again, I had this feeling of they're going to kill me. And of course, they didn't. And I'm still here. I'm alive. Proof.
Yep. You know what, Huey? I think we need to hop a plane and do Hollywood Bowl and then the following night up here.
I'm down for that.
Two in a row. I think that's the idea.
As you know, it's an early birthday gift for myself.
Yeah, because that's right before his birthday. And I used to live down the street from the Hollywood Bowl, and I was so poor then. I had no money.
It's fun. You should come. And
my God.
The fact that I'm coming back to the Starlight Amphitheater. I mean, I think it was 94 was the last time I was there.
Oh, wow. At the Shoreline? Really? 94?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Did I say Starlight? Yeah, Shoreline Amphitheater.
30 years ago. Yeah, that is amazing.
It's so weird that I'm doing this, which I never expected to be doing again.
Yeah.
And suddenly, here I am doing it. And it's crazy. It's like, my life is just full of so many weird, unexpected twists and turns.
Yeah.
But Coachella opened this door. Well, and COVID did, because when everything shut down for COVID, everything canceled, all my concerts. Of course, my luck. 2019, I canceled all film work, all scoring work, so I could have a whole year of just concerts. Because I also had classical concerts. I had my Elfman Burton big orchestral music. I had Nightmare Before Christmas concerts all over. And so I'm just going to do concerts. And of course, they all shut down.
Yeah.
And I'm going, okay, what am I going to do? I'll start writing some songs. What the hell? Because I started a few new songs for Coachella. Once I opened that Pandora's box, it's like, oh my God, I can't close it now. So, out came double album Big Mess. And now another one, and it's like, even still, I said, I'm going to write 10 songs. And I ended up with 17. it's like, I got to stop.
It's so amazing, like the creativity that flies out of you. Huey and I were talking about this earlier. Like, it's so hard sometimes to be a creative. I mean, we're storytellers on the radio, and sometimes you just have absolute moments of like, I got nothing.
Yeah.
Does that ever happen to you? And if so, like, how do you get over that hump?
Yeah. How do you find inspiration to get over it?
I don't want to lie and go, all I do is go like that and I get ideas,
Yeah.
Right.
Occasionally that happens. So, for example, out of 110 film scores, I would say 10 of them came real easy. And just suddenly, like The Simpsons. I literally heard the whole thing in my head while I'm talking with Matt Groening in his office, worked out the details of it in the car on the way home. By the time I got home, it was done.
Wow.
Okay? Mars Attacks, while I'm looking at the black and white rendition of what was going to be the flying saucers coming, one by one, and then Armada. It was a real funky early version of it. I heard the whole thing exactly in my head, and I had to stop the screening that was Tim was doing for me, a private screening, run out in the lobby and write down a bunch of notes really quick, and then, okay, we can keep going. Now, that does happen, but that's the tiny fraction of the time. The rest of the time, it's, oh my God, what am I going to do? Composers go through a lot of stress in the sense that it always feels like I'm lowering a bucket into a well, waiting for the sound of water, but I don't know where the water is. And sometimes I'm going down and down, and I start to go, what if there's no more water?
Yeah.
And just at the point where I go, oh no, I'm through, I'll hear a little splash. I go, oh.
Wow. And does it come to you like at an instrument at a time?
Well, yeah.
When it's like that?
What comes to me is a tone, an idea, or a melody. And then I'll start working with that. And then that opens more. And, as I'm writing for a film or for a symphonic piece, I start out with a lot of ideas. And then once it kind of starts, then one thing leads to the second and the third and the fourth. And by the time I reach a point where I've got 10 ideas, and then I have to bring the director in and say, okay, look, you got to tell me which direction is working for you. So if it's Tim, I bring him in, I go, okay, here's an idea for a main theme. Here's another idea. And here's something totally off the wall. So I'll never, when I play a scene for him, have less than 3 versions of it. And so it's a lot of experimenting. It's a lot of lab work. It's a lot of hours of like, try something. I like it. I think it's good. Now stick it away and go back to square one and do it all over again. A different idea. And then you work that up. And
that's amazing.
It's not an easy profession. And, I've often said this, film scoring is meant for masochists.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it's like, it can be really like brain crushing at times.
So I'm just guessing, is that more challenging than your time in Oingo Boingo? I mean, it's you're making music, but it's 2 different platforms. Like you're you're in a band, a family of band members, different personalities working with the songs and music.
Right.
If you could kind of explain the difference, your writing process, your creating process versus being in a band like Oingo Boingo versus writing a song or a soundtrack or composing for a movie, just kind of the differences between those two.
Well, it's a huge difference because when you're writing songs, you're just looking for an idea. And it comes together and you get some lyrics and you've got an idea for the song. Now, the song may or may not survive. It may end up being a song that gets tossed in the pile, but you've got your song.
Yeah.
And when you're writing a score, it's 12 hours a day, every day, working through it, finding where it could go, doing orchestration, seeing what can I do with this. I'll take it and I'll go, can I take this theme that I'm liking? Can I make it sound big and heroic? Can I make the same thing sound romantic? Can I make it sound scary? So I'm putting it through all these tests. With a song, it's just like, this is it. It is what it is. Yeah. Now, it'll either feel good by the time the band is playing it and it's all together, or it won't.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just something Chas and I were talking earlier off the air was I'm guessing from the time you did Pee Wee to Oingo Boingo ending by 95, which, by the way, to this day, every once in a while, I will just pop on that last performance at Universal Studios.
Yeah.
I get goosebumps.
Thank you.
But
the
like,
only one I could listen to,
Yeah, but like, you're in your shorts and you're jumping up and down, and you're like, "This is the last song," and it's just, I get goosebumps, and just it really was the last time in the circle pit that was going for you, and it just. Oh, God. And just in hindsight, just how magical that night was. And it was just so cool. You guys had that run of all those Halloween shows at Universal Studios. But
thank you.
But you think you're welcome. But thank you from like that time from 85 to 95, that 10-year period of doing both Oingo Boingo and movie work.
Doing all of it.
Yeah.
Oh
like,
God.
How stressful was it? Were you getting burnt out by the 90s?
Well, let me put it this way. I don't think I ever worked less than 16 hours a day in the very beginning because, when I started in 85, we didn't have the tools, the computerized tools that make the job go a little quicker. In other words, I would work out all the pieces of music for every piece in the film, and then I would take out a piece of paper and start writing it all down by hand. And my first 20 scores were like this. It was like doing it twice, like working it out, recording all the parts, and then writing them all down. And it was 16-hour days every day. And then, it got a little easier in the 90s where you had software where you could actually take what you've already performed and worked out, in excruciating detail, and now print out the music to look at as written music. And I go, that just cut 6 hours out of each day.
Wow.
Right there. But at that point, I wasn't burning out. I mean, it was very exciting, the fact that I was doing both and going up and back. I realized that I love contrast, and it kind of worked for me. It's like every time I was in the middle of a film score, I was longing to be on stage, sweating, because it's so visceral and physical. Every time I was on tour, and I had to play the songs every night. I was like,
Yeah.
I long to be doing a film score where I can be doing a new piece of music every day,
Okay.
every day, every day. I never have to repeat anything exactly the same twice. So I realized that whatever I was doing, I loved doing the other one.
Yeah.
And so that was my balance. And then after 95, I realized 91 that
Okay.
I couldn't keep doing it. For one thing, I just have a hard time repeating material a lot.
Hmm.
I wasn't made to be in a band that way. I look at these bands that tour 9 months of the year, and 6 weeks for me, I was enough for me to want to kill myself.
Yeah.
I just psychologically, I just don't know how they do it. I admire it, but
Yeah.
I kind of knew that wasn't me. And also, I was destroying my ears, and I
Oh,
knew
wow.
I couldn't
Yeah.
keep going. Yeah,
Sure.
I was developing tinnitus, and we didn't have the in-ears kind of
Mhm.
worked out at that time. It was the very
Yeah.
beginning of
Yeah.
in-ear monitors.
Mhm.
I was terrified of them. I've been in the studio so many times with headphones when you get
Yeah.
feedback, and
Yeah.
that feedback just, all of us in the band, we'd have to like take our headphones off and just sit half an hour staring into space. It was so annihilating,
Yeah.
getting a
Yeah.
huge loud blast of feedback. So I'm going, if that happened in my ears,
Oh,
oh my
yeah.
God, I was afraid of that. So I didn't do it. Now
Okay.
it's safe. They have
Yeah.
protections from that.
Right.
But at that time, I knew that I was at the end of what I can handle in terms of onstage live sound. The sound was
Wow.
just too much for me. And I had hearing damage, and I have
Yeah.
deafness in my family. So,
Mm.
it was always hovering over me, haunting me that, it's already going to happen to me. And I'm just
You're
making it happen,
exasperating it. Yeah.
exasperating, making it sooner. So 95, I told the band, I said, look, this is really it for me.
Wow.
And but on the other hand, then I became just a film composer for
Just.
the next 15, 20 years. And
Yeah.
that got frustrating. So that's when I started doing classical music, concert
Yeah.
music,
Yeah.
because okay, now I get my balance. I could get, do my film thing and have it really
Yeah.
fun. And then I could like really express myself through this classical music where I have nobody that I have to appeal to. I don't have any picture telling me what to write.
Mhm.
In fact, the last time I was in San Francisco was at the Symphony Hall with the San Francisco Symphony.
At
doing,
Davies?
um,
Such a
damn it,
great place.
I'm trying to remember the name. I'm so bad with that.
Davies Symphony Hall by City Hall.
I guess so.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was my cello concerto that was being
Uh-huh.
the American premiere of it with Michael Tilson Thomas, the conductor. And so that was the other side of me, which is why I'm happy to come back now, back to the other side of me, bringing back and
Yeah.
getting in front of San Francisco. I miss San Francisco. So
It's such a great city. It's so eclectic and whimsical, and there's so
it
much to love
really
about
is.
it. It gets a lot of bad
Absolutely.
press right now, but trust me when I say it's not all true. It's frustrating to say the least.
Oh,
I want
look,
to
I understand.
I want to touch on, the end of Oingo Boingo and around the time that you became Jack. And there was a very interesting through line to Jack Skellington's story in Nightmare Before Christmas and what you were going through with Oingo Boingo. Talk about that. I've seen you talk about that in interviews. And what did it mean when you found out that you were going to sing Jack's voice, that was going to be you?
Well, I mean, like I said, starting around 90, I already was thinking of my exit plan.
Mm-hmm.
And but I didn't want to let the group down, the band, and it was very difficult. And then Tim comes to me with the story of Nightmare Before Christmas, and I go, I so understand this. Jack Skellington, he's the king of his own little universe,
Yeah.
which if you're the leader of a rock band, that's your bubble, that's your universe. And Jack wants something else. He wants to get out. And so as Tim brought me the story, it was totally his story.
Right.
But I understood it from a personal sense of I get who Jack is
Yeah.
and what his problem is. And so I wrote the songs kind of both from his perspective, but also from my own understanding of I get it. And so there was this point where all the songs to Nightmare was really quick. It was all in 1 month, 10 songs, about one every 3 days. Tim was coming over. I was playing him the next one and the next one. And then we went into the studio to record demos of all of them for Henry Selick. up in Oakland, who was just starting to put together the studio for Nightmare to do the animation. And I did all the voices for everything except Sally's song. I brought in, obviously, it was the one song I couldn't sing. Yeah. And but I did the little voices, the big voices, Jack's voice, just did everything. And Tim's out there kind of like the producer. And after I finished, it's this long night, and I'm going, Tim, I was reaching that point where I just couldn't imagine anybody else singing the part. I go, look, about the singing for Jack. And he goes, yeah, don't worry. You got it.
Got it.
But I was having these mental pictures of like, oh my God, we're going to do auditions for singers for Jack Skellington, and they'll hire the first person who will be walking down the street and the piano will fall on them. And then the second person who they hire him and some crazy accident happens. And after 3 or 4 of those suddenly disappear, they go, well, Danny, I guess it's down
now
to you.
It's you. You finally did it.
Yes.
I don't know. That story is so important. That was my favorite movie growing up. And then when I had a son, I was like, hell-bent. This is going to be his favorite. But you never know what your kid's going to like, right? And so whenever we showed it to him and he fell head over heels in love with it.
Could I just say how great it is to hear that? And it means so much to me because when we did Nightmare, finally, Tim shows it for Disney, and they preview it, and they have a kid preview audience, and they hate it.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, because they're expecting a Little Mermaid.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Okay, yeah.
And they get this, unfinished to boot.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, it's not for kids. And so I did a press junket for 2 days, and you know what a press junket is. You're doing
of course.
1,000 very short interviews.
Back to back, yeah.
Every single journalist said the same thing to me. So it's not for kids, too scary for kids, right? And I said the same thing over and over. I said, are your kids scared of Halloween? Yeah. And they go, no, they love Halloween. Then this movie's not too scary for them.
Exactly.
But it was so difficult because they go, well, we hear Santa Claus gets tortured. And I go, not torture.
I mean, it's not torture. That's a really aggressive word.
Yeah, he's inconvenienced. By the end, he's not even that upset by it.
Yeah, you come full circle. It's fine.
Full circle. It's fine. And but it was the thinking at the time was that this is not for kids. And they redid everything and all the marketing and it all got so scrambled up. But the Disney's credit, thank God it was Disney, because they are really good at having a bigger picture, a longer view.
Yeah.
10 years later, I was with Tim in Tokyo for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and there's Jack Skellington and Sally stuff all over Tokyo. Yeah. And it was this realization that this is still alive.
Yeah.
And I think Tim went back and talked with them, and they kind of started re-releasing it, putting new energy. Now, a decade later, they did understand what it was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's understandable that when it came out, there was nothing to relate it to. There was nothing to say, what is this thing?
It was a first of its kind. Sure.
First of its kind. A decade later, they did understand, and they put energy. And suddenly, I'm doing concerts, and all these kids, people are bringing their kids in, and people are sending me videos of their kids singing songs, and nothing felt better to me because I always knew that it had the possibility of being for kids, that I wrote it from my 10-year-old daughter, Molly, heard every song before anybody else did.
Wow.
And so to actually have it come back and get a second life that way is amazing. Literally, if 110 films, and I've had many, many flops, if I could have any single film that I poured myself into and say, it didn't do that well, but it's going to get a second life, it would have been Nightmare. Because I usually work 3 months on a film, maybe 4. Nightmare, I was on for 2 years. Mm-hmm. It really was important to me. I put a lot of myself into it. And so to get this second life, which is so rare with film, you get these really occasional films. The Wizard of Oz was that way, and Rocky Horror Picture Show. And, there's occasionally a film that will get like a second life on its own. And so I'm just so grateful that it was Nightmare. And I'm extra grateful to hear what you just said about
I hate to be that mom, but if you can see, this is my son at your show in 2022 holding his Jack Skellington.
Yeah.
So singing every word. So yeah, it's almost religion in our house. In fact, at the end of this month, our house, we basically turn it into Jack Skellington's house for Halloween. And my son, I don't know if you can see it on camera. I had skin cancer here and I got it removed. And I had these horrible stitches. I mean, they like burnt my face off. It was very gross. But I came home and my son was like, "Oh, Mommy, you're Sally now." And I was like, "Oh my God." So now he calls me Sally because I have my little stitches scar. So
Yeah, it's like, that's so great. Stitches. Oh,
it's
that's
Sally. He just went and got his Sally doll and handed it to me. I'm like, "I'll take it."
That's
something,
so perfect.
Yeah.
Something Danny, Chaz and I were asking was Disneyland and the Haunted Mansion and how it gets turned over into part of your creation. So do you get to go to Disneyland at some point and check it out, and just your thoughts on just them turning the whole park over into like your vision?
And now it's expanded. It just reopened. It's got some new life to it. But it's so much better when Jack's there.
It's just like icing on the cake. You know what I mean? It's just like a dream come true. Haunted Mansion was always my favorite ride when I went to Disneyland as a kid. So to actually have Haunted Mansion kind of turn to this character that I was a part of is so wonderful. And then even more so, I did a ride for Disneyland Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
And it was based on the Chinese version of Haunted Mansion.
Oh.
And it was so much fun because even though it was a different storyline, because the idea of ghosts in China is very different than ghosts here. But there is a section where, when you drive by those holograph heads and they're all, they're singing.
Yeah.
I did that with 3 hologram kind of faces on coats of armor as you go by them. They're singing. And that was my kind of inspiration of the Haunted Mansion, taking it to their Haunted Mansion Hong Kong.
Wow, that is really, really cool. I'm always jealous of the voices and the people in the Haunted Mansion because I'm like, they live forever in there. It's kind of trippy when you go through there. You're like, there are a lot of people singing to me that are dead right now. Like,
I know.
Danny, also, I was going to say, also just curious, with Disney, and Chasta knows I'm a big fan of superhero movies. So obviously your work with Spider-Man 2, Doctor Strange, what did it mean for you to cross over into the superhero world? I mean, I know you had Batman, obviously 89, 92.
That was huge.
Obviously, huge. But now the superhero, the MCU world has taken over for the last 16 years now. Spider-Man early in the 2000s kind of set the tone.
Right.
I guess 2-part here. Yeah. What did it mean for you to be part of such a huge, just cultural phenomenon, and then just the process for writing for like a superhero movie?
It's like, I love it, but as you're saying, I'd already kind of been part of that in the very beginning. And when I did Batman in 89, there was no model for what to use for what is this supposed to sound like. We have no idea. All there was at that point was John Williams' Superman.
Right.
And we knew that we don't want it to sound like Superman, but what do we want it to sound like? Who knows? So there was that incredible moment of, what is it? And then coming back years later into the Marvel world is such a treat. I got to work on first Justice League and then, Doctor Strange. And oh my God, doing those films was such a gas. I mean, I just can't even tell you. It was just fun. It was wild. And I don't know how to explain it, like Doctor Strange, just opening the whole thing up and having these characters. It's fantasy, and I love fantasy. Yeah. And because it's big, I get to go big, which of course, I love doing.
That's your specialty. I want to crack your skull open and see how your brain works because there's so much going on in there.
I'm sorry, I said, I meant Ultron, Age of Ultron.
Oh, yeah. Avengers, Age of Ultron.
That was the Marvel. I got my brain scrambled.
Yeah.
No, believe it's a lot to keep track of.
Oh, it's insane.
Ultron leading to Doctor Strange, and I hope I get to do more with them because they're great people, and I loved working with them.
I do want to kick it back to Batman because there's this part of the story. First of all, I love that you wrote Batman on a plane, in and out of a bathroom. If you want to tell that.
The theme, not the score.
The theme, right,
the main theme, yeah.
That cracked me up. That story's amazing.
I'm on a 747. I'm coming back from the Gotham City set where I just walked through with Tim and John Peters, the producer, and saw the first bit of footage, rough cut dailies, really, is what they call it, like not edited together. And it hits me in the middle of this flight. Now I'm on this noisy 747. I'm sitting next to some guy, and I want to start taking my tape recorder out and making notes, but I'm too shy to do that in front of the businessman sitting next to me. So I keep running into the bathroom with my tape recorder. And I'm in the bathroom, and I'm hearing the boom, and I'm hearing, okay, get a little bit, go back to my seat. 10 minutes later, I got the next time, run back into the bathroom. And now I open the door, and the flight attendant says, "Sir, can I help you?" "No, I'm fine. I'm fine." "Oh, okay, you're not ill." No, I'm fine. Back in my seat. 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, I'm in the bathroom again. Open the door, and now there's two flight attendants. "Sir, are you okay? Are you ill?" No. And I'm coming out like, "No, I'm great. I'm great." So
they're like, the drug addict over here.
What kind of drug can he be taking so frequently? What can you take every 10 minutes? It's like, doesn't make sense. So after 4 or 5 times, this is, of course, way before 9/11. So, but they're still like, they're all looking at me. They're all watching me. It's like, we got a crazy guy who's like, he can't stay out of the bathroom, and he comes out really excited. And meanwhile, I'm working out. So I knew that when I got home, it was all going to get erased when we landed. Because in those days, sometimes still, when a plane lands, they'd put on a piece of music.
Sure.
So, all it takes is landing and hearing like, "Hey, Jude, don't be afraid," or whatever.
Poof, it's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute. I'm hearing "Hey, Jude" in my head by the Beatles. It's not.
Oh.
And so I get home and I put on my tape recorder. And of course, the bathroom in a 747 is really loud. You get a lot of engine noise. So I'm hearing all the static. And then I hear a little bit of my own voice going, and I go, "Oh, there it is. I got it. I got on my keyboard, got my tape machine running, and, recorded like a first early demo of what I was going to become the Batman theme.
That's incredible. I love that story. And just the fact that, with Batman, that you actually turned the gig down because you were set to collaborate and work with other people, namely Prince. But you believed in yourself so much to walk away from that. It worked out in your favor.
Story. I know, but
Thank God.
I wish it wasn't that way. I mean, any other project in the world, I would have loved to have collaborated with Prince.
Sure. Yeah.
Just not this one. Because I had it in my mind. I knew what the music was, and I wasn't going to go back to scratch and do it as taking his themes and putting them to orchestra. I didn't want to be an elaborate, orchestrator rather than a composer.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of give it 3-4 weeks to let it run its course, and then everything worked out. But
God bless you for sticking to your artistic vision. You knew that's what it was in your heart.
It was the hardest decision ever because I thought I would just kill my career.
That's it. Whatever happened to Danny Elfman, we don't know.
Well, because I thought I'd walked away from the first big film I ever got. You got to remember, that was it. That was the first big film.
Right.
And, but I knew what it was. And, at that point, Tim didn't have the power that he would have later to be able to go, this is what I want.
Right.
And, he had only done Beetlejuice and Pee-wee, and they both did well, but he was not until after Batman established as a major force.
Who could walk into a room and say, this is what I want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And so it had to run its course, and I still feel, sad that I never got to work with Prince and meet him, because obviously, even though that wasn't the one for it to happen, I have huge admiration for him as an artist.
Yeah.
So, but it is what it is.
It all worked out. It all worked out. Well, we know you only have a couple more minutes. We know you have a heart out, and I have never been more excited in my life to ask another human this question. So Huey and I always end our interviews with rock stars with the question from Almost Famous, a wonderful film I'm sure you're familiar with. But in the last frame of that film, the question is asked, what do you love about music?
Wow. You know, it's the simplest and the hardest question on
It
the
is.
planet.
And the pause is part of the answer because we always get this dramatic pause and then brilliance usually.
It's all I am. It's what I do. You know, I don't know what I would be without music. It's like if I'm not writing this, I need to be writing that. And hopefully I get to write all these extremes and bounce, 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 which I've been incredibly fortunate to be able to do. I have no idea without music, without getting pulled into it late in life, what my life would have become. I can't even fathom it.
And thank God you don't have to.
Thank you.
Yes.
Danny, I can't tell you how much of a pleasure this is. I'm getting choked up, so Huey's going to have to do the heavy lifting with the shows. But truly, thank you for all of the inspiration you have given me in all
Thank
these
you
years.
so much. I really, I love talking with you guys. I hope we do it again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'd love to. So I guess we're hopping a plane and we're going to Hollywood Bowl
Yeah.
and coming back here.
So
See you there.
we encourage everyone, go get your tickets this Friday, August 16th, 10 a.m. through Ticketmaster. Tickets for Danny Elfman from Boingo to Batman to Big Mess and beyond. November 2nd, Hollywood Bowl. And then the next night at Shoreline here in the Bay Area on November 3rd. So what better way to celebrate post-Halloween
That's right.
than with the legend himself,
That's right.
Mr. Danny Elfman. And yes,
Thank
to
you.
piggyback Chasta, yes, thank you for everything, just the music. But yes, as a huge Oingo Boingo fan, I remember as a kid, you know, in the 80s, listening to your music and just the impact and just how unique and just special the music was and just the energy, all that stuff. So yeah, thank you for just writing the soundtrack to our youth as well.
Yes.
Thank
well
you
said.
so much. Thank you.
We love you. We'll see you soon.
I'll see you soon. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.